what's worse than a shark coming for you when you're out in the ocean? Two coming for you. But this attack is different from any other. As a young man fends off two ginormous marine predators, it appears that the two great whites are working in collaboration together to take down their prey. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the terrifying shark attack on Bradley Smith. Welcome to Final Affliction. It was whale migration season off the coast of Western Australia. Drawn towards their migration route, great white sharks are known to head northwards to meet the returning whales. This is often when the whales are most dangerous, as the shark population swells and they prowl the coastlines in greater numbers. One of the things known about great white sharks, and that is they are solitary hunters. They don't hunt in packs, a behavior that has been documented in other shark species. But that was about to change as passionate surfer 29-year-old Bradley Smith entered the water on July 10, 2004. From Shoalwater, 41 kilometers west of Australian state capital Perth, Bradley and a group of friends paddled out into the Indian Ocean. They were surfing at Left-Handers Beach, south of Gracetown, near Margaret River. The beach is a popular spot and is considered safe for more junior surfers. Nobody could have predicted what happened that day. As Bradley and his friends lay on their boards, floating on the surface of the ocean, not one, but two great white sharks prowled below the waves. Cooperative hunting is not documented in great white sharks, but these two clearly had their eyes on the same prize, the silhouetted figures of the surfers above them. After swimming along the coastline, the two sharks began to swim up through the water column. They headed directly for the surfers and began to power towards the surface. Bradley's friends looked over to see the terrifying shadow of a great white shark. It was so enormous that they described it as wide as a car. It was the megalodon of modern times, and it was heading straight for Bradley. Before anybody could get out of the way, there was suddenly an eruption of water right beside Bradley, and he was thrown off his board. The shark that made the hit was estimated to be 4.5 meters, almost 15 feet long. But that's when the group of friends spotted a second shark. When Bradley hit the water, he knew what was coming. He knew he had been struck by a shark and desperately grappled to get back onto his board. But the sharks were in attack mode. As the smaller of the two, at 3 meters, 10 feet long, circled Bradley whilst he splashed in the water, the other came in for the kill. Its dark shadow torpedoed below the other surfers heading straight for Bradley. His friends could only look on in horror as the dorsal fin sliced through the surface moments before it opened its jaws just feet from where Bradley trod water. Seconds later, the shark grabbed him, and he was pulled under the surface. The sharp, serrated teeth dug into his flesh, holding him in a vice-like grip. But Bradley was an incredibly brave young man and refused to give up. He thrashed around in the shark's jaws, hitting it and kicking with his legs. Miraculously, he made it back up to the surface as the shark let go for a moment. But Bradley wasn't dealing with just one shark. He was dealing with two, and the blood that now poured from his open wounds incited the marine predators, and a feeding frenzy ensued. At that point, there was so much commotion in the water, so much splashing and bubbling and boiling, that it was impossible to tell which shark was attacking Bradley. It was a desperate fight for survival, and a devastating thing for his friends to witness. His mates, still on their surfboards just feet from where Bradley was being attacked, implored him to escape. With every fiber of their bodies, they willed him to make a break for it. "Swim for your life, mate," they shouted. "Swim for your life." That's exactly what Bradley was trying to do. But as each of the sharks came at him again and again, he couldn't fend them off. He kept punching them with his fists and pushing them away as their snouts broke through the surface right next to him. But it was a losing battle. One of his friends rushed to the shore and ran out of the water to call for help. He dialed 000 and turned to look back at the sea, shocked and shaken by what he had just witnessed. Seeing how enormous the sharks were and how intense their attack was, his friends knew Bradley was in the fight for his life. This wasn't a case of mistaken identity. The two sharks had been on the hunt, and they had settled on Bradley as their prey. It was such a rapid and ferocious attack by two absolutely giant sharks that at one point, when one of the sharks opened its jaws to bite Bradley, an eyewitness described the jaws as wide as the length of a man's arm. The shark could have swallowed Bradley whole. With both great whites furiously biting, tugging, and pulling at the young man, his body was practically torn in two. After 45 seconds of relentless attacking, there was a break in the feeding frenzy, and Bradley's body floated on the surface, motionless. His friends seized their opportunity. With the two man-eaters just feet away, they frantically paddled over to Bradley, who was now surrounded in a dark cloud of red seawater. Bravely, his friends grabbed hold of him. He was no longer moving. He no longer had any fight left in him. He had bled out from the attack just yards from dry land and only feet from some of his best friends. As the friends pulled Bradley towards the shoreline, he left a trail of blood behind them. It was tantalizing for the two sharks, and the short paddle to the beach felt like an eternity as the friends thought that they might be next. Not daring to look behind them, they focused on the shore and the safety of the beach. Finally, they made it to the shallows and dragged Bradley out of the water. With the friends too traumatized to describe Bradley's injuries, another eyewitness told media that Bradley had been torn in half. It's something that you may see in the movies, but you never for 1 second think that it is something that is going to happen to one of your best friends. Bradley's board was brought to shore afterwards. It had been completely snapped in half by the shark's razor-sharp teeth. The bite mark was testament to just how massive the great whites had been. Following the harrowing tragedy, marksmen in a flotilla of boats who were accompanied by a police helicopter scoured the ocean for the two man-eating giants. Normally, great white sharks are protected, and it is forbidden to hunt them. But fisheries officer Tony Capilouti said that if a shark poses a significant threat to humans and has attacked before, then officers are always authorized to kill it. As the search party headed out into the surf, there was no sign of the two sharks. They had likely been scared off by the sound of the engines and the commotion. But there was dispute amongst many Australians. As is often the case after an attack, the debate about whether or not to kill those responsible arose. Shark nets that are installed along some stretches of the Australian coast are not considered effective and pose significant risk to other marine life. Authorities worry that if a shark has tasted human blood, then they may be more likely to attack people again. But a few days after the attack, words of support for the two sharks were spoken by the most unlikely of people, Bradley's brother. He said that a revenge killing wasn't going to bring his brother back, and it's not what Bradley would have wanted. An uneasiness came over locals when a week passed and no sign of the two enormous sharks was found. They had vanished from the coastal waters, and with the ability to travel more than 100 miles a day, the search area was now huge. Marine experts were surprised by the behavior of the two sharks. Eyewitnesses reported one shark knocking Bradley off the board and the other coming in to attack him. It seemed like a collaborative hunt, something else that added to the uneasiness of the locals. But for most avid surfers, the terrible attack wasn't going to stop them going into the water. When the very same beach was reopened following the tragedy, surfers were back out in the waves. They knew the dangers, and their love for the sport far outweighed any fear they may have of being eaten by a shark and meeting their own final affliction.